Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the FitFam podcast. This is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Doug, the Formulator.
And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the American Medical System. And we've entitled it
American Medical System, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
The Good, the Bad, and Ugly. Now, how many of you even know what that's a reference to? That's an old movie.
It's an actual, isn't it the name of the movie?
Yeah.
The Good, the Bad, with Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've heard it.
Your dad loved it.
I'm too young for that.
All right. So the reason we titled it, I said entitled, we titled it The Good, the Bad, and Ugly, because it's important to understand all the different sides of America and our healthcare system, our disease creating system, and kind of who's behind it so that you can take responsibility. I think that's really the goal of this episode, is to enlighten you to take responsibility for your own health.
I think the best and worst part of living it in this day and age is that we have so much access to so much information, and we have so much access to so much information. And so trying to decipher what is actually right for us and wrong for us can be a little bit difficult because it comes from all areas.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because when I first started out doing research, so just even at junior college, but especially at ASU, where they're teaching you how to look at research, right? And to see all the different components. And then also at that time, just a little bit, let's make sure who funded the study and were they involved, was it double blind, all that. And that's really, you follow these basic parameters and you were good to go. But now, like you said, there's so much information, and a lot of these companies out there that we'll be talking about know that people, look to research, that they manipulate it. And the manipulation game is so huge in our industry. It's hard to know what to do, even for the people that are inside that look at research studies and stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes it's not about the research, sometimes it's about who's screaming the loudest, and that's who we think we need to listen to, right? And so we're bombarded by people with their opinions, and we're not always given access to facts and studies. So I like that today we are going to focus on some research studies. And are you giving your opinion today, or are you going to be mostly factual?
I think we're just straight factual today. And I think that's a great way to ask that question, because we've had to go in and look at the research. And to look at the research now, what's different now is you have to go and really look at who did it, but why they did it, what was the intent. And there's so much more to look at. And so that's what we've done for you, so that it can be based on facts. You don't have to believe what we say. Like we lay it out, you can do your own research. That way you can come to your conclusions on your own.
I like it. Okay. So what is America the best at?
All right. So the good, bad, and ugly, the good.
Mm-hmm.
America, I think, is the best. We talked about this a little bit to make sure we say the right words. We are great at saving lives.
Right. But yeah, like I've been cut, or I'm, going into heart failure. You can keep me alive.
Absolutely. And I think we're the best at it. And we'll put up on the screen a research study that talks about world-class innovation, but at what cost? Talking about how America has the most medical technology.
Right.
We have the best ability to
Yeah.
save lives.
If I'm in a car accident, I want to be in America.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had a great example of that. Our son had a very traumatic thing happen with his brain injury, had to pull the skull off like multiple times over like 5-year period of time, major brain surgeries or surgeries to the skull. And he was at Barrows Neurological Institute, one of the best in the whole world. And somewhere else, it would have been another country that would happen, probably would have lost him.
Right.
Right.
For sure.
So that's the good. The good is that we're the best at acute life-threatening care. In other words, that immediate need to keep the body alive.
Yeah, so the bad. America has a low life expectancy and a high cost of medical care compared to every other country in the world, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, this graph that we'll put up is mind-blowing.
And it's a great graph because it goes through, and they did the analysis of life expectancy per country, but also health expenditure, the cost per individual in that country. And it's mind-blowing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so in America, our life expectancy right now, it's actually gone down for the first time in decades, in fact, hundreds of years. It's gone down since 2014, which is really interesting. But it's at about what, 70?
Yeah. 79-ish,
Yep,
78.
yep,
Yeah.
78 and a half, 79. And yet, most of the other countries in the world, at least the ones that
Well
are
into their
civilized,
80s.
well into the 80s, Japan passed, 85, Switzerland, Spain, Italy, obviously with some more of the Mediterranean diet and that type of thing. And what's interesting is as I started looking also at those countries, and a lot of those countries have things that I'm not even necessarily a big fan of, which is where the country takes care of the health,
Right.
insurance or health care for
Uh-huh.
the individuals, which is interesting because although I'm not a fan of the government being in charge of your, you know, health insurance per se, those countries have incentives to try to keep costs down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like they want you to be sick, sick, sick. When here in America, those companies make money on you being sick. And so it's an interesting concept. The truth is that we shouldn't have to worry too much about healthcare except for life-saving healthcare, as far as insurance and that. And we should be focusing on what we do lifestyle-wise,
Yeah. Our health.
our health itself. So that's um, the bad side of it to start off with. And the thing that we'll talk about in a minute is what is the true answer to that. But why don't we jump to the ugly?
Yeah, so the American healthcare system is actually a disease creating system for profit that keeps you in their loop of control and payments to them. So,
I
who is them?
So them, that's one of my favorite things, right? Them at the top of, the ladder are the hedge funds, BlackRock and Vanguard. But, for that we see every day, it's the pharmaceutical companies, and you see their advertisements on TV for drugs, which is crazy. We allow that nowadays. The food companies and most supplement companies, synthetic supplement companies, because most supplement companies are owned by the pharmaceutical companies, which we'll put that graph up here too. A lot of people don't realize that. And all of those companies are owned by the large hedge funds. So basically, it's this monopoly.
It's just a money producing not scheme, but
System.
system. That's,
Absolutely.
it's all about where can we get money.
And keep you in the loop. And if you think about it, if you take away morals, ethics, and that it's brilliant on there. And they're like, how can we keep you buying from us from every angle, from the food, the pharmaceuticals, the surgeries, right? Keeping the marketing. And so what we did is we actually spent a lot of time on this. And these next two graphs are ones that we created to really get the point across that the system, the framework that's used is one that's been used for a long time. I think actually the tobacco companies might have been the ones to invent it. But it's a framework of keeping you in the loop of disease. And then we're going to take you to the framework that we teach to help you with optimal health. So,
Well, okay, I think it might be best if I kind of explain it through our system,
sure, through
right?
our acronym.
Through our acronym.
Okay.
So when we discuss health, and everybody knows we're all about focused intense thought, where the mind is, nutrition, getting proper nutrition, exercise, and specific supplementation. So with that same framework in mind, and constantly going through that framework always to keep your health where it needs to be, right?
Right.
Go back to focused intense thought, then where's your nutrition at, where's your exercise, how are your supplements, and again, and just a constant evaluation of where those things are. So if you take it from the focused intense thought, so what's on your mind, and that is their marketing.
Their marketing, and it's crazy. So their marketing is designed to make you feel that bad foods that actually cause disease and a shorter lifespan, are good for you.
Right. So the marketing, you're seeing it with your eyes. So the marketing is going in and being processed through the brain, and we're being marketed to
It claims that things aren't harmful that are.
right.
And then if you do need extra help, you do get disease in that, then the marketing on the pharmaceutical side of, oh, here's your answer, which is a prescription drug.
Right.
So if you have diabetes, you have arthritis, you have these things that are created from the bad foods they're
So
marketing.
the marketing is in the brain, and that's the focus intense thought for them, making you feel like you want it. And then the marketing is towards all of these foods that cause disease and, harm to the actual harm to the body. So your nutrition, in quotes, is these synthetic processed foods that you can continue to consume. And then so as you're watching, and then you consume these things because you're seeing, what's being marketed to you, and you want to eat these things, then you eat these things, and then you start to feel what kind of way?
Well, and you feel bad, like you're saying, but remember the chemicals they're putting in the food. So under the nutrition part of the acronym that you're taking them through, it's about having the chemicals in the food that override your body's ghrelin and leptin responses to make you crave foods even after your body has enough calories in it. It makes you crave more and more and more. And again, that's part of their system, right? They're selling you the foods, and they would love for you to keep craving those foods even when your body would normally say that's enough because you're giving them more money. And that's what's in their nutrition.
Okay, and so what about exercise in quotes? What's their exercise? The doing.
Yeah, is to not. So basically,
What
that's
they're doing is the screens, the phones in front of the computers, right? You're doing is watching Netflix, and so
and chill.
okay, thanks for that. It's like an opposite of what actual exercise is.
Absolutely. And that's the only way they can do it, right? Because any movement is good for you. So they put everything out there that they can to get you to not move, to stay focused on the screen and that. And what's interesting is if you're following their nutrition model of these highly processed foods, chemically laden foods, it puts your mind in a position to be more zombie-like, to where you actually will stare at screens and you'll be depressed and you want to stay in your own bubble and not go out. So it fits in from the nutrition, creating it so that you don't have the desire to move as much. That's their exercise.
So then we're doing all of these things, which then eventually lead us to feeling a certain way and wanting to feel better. And so we seek out drugs to help us feel better for how we're living, right?
Right, all the way from
So supplementation is more drugs.
yeah, absolutely.
Prescriptions.
Absolutely. And there's two sides of it, right? You have the group that says, okay, I'm feeling like crap, I'm not exercising, and I want to do something about it. So I'm going to go take supplements, right? Healthy, but yet the pharmaceutical companies own 95% of the supplement companies. So they're selling you synthetic chemicals, and you think you're doing something healthy. Or you're someone that doesn't think that. You're like, oh, I'll just take Tylenol, ibuprofen, antacids, all these types of things, and you don't really care about trying to be healthy. You've been convinced that these over-the-counter drugs and stuff are going to actually cure something instead of cause more of a problem.
Right. Or so you just or you just want to feel better and have it, and the past through those methods teaches you that in the immediate you do feel better.
Yeah. And so if you go through that cycle like Hilary just taught, right, they're marketing the nutrition, the chemically laden foods, highly processed foods, don't exercise, screen time. And then from the specific supplements, at least using the fitness acronym, it's over-the-counter drugs and those types of things. It takes you over that continuous cycle. So let's continue their cycle again and start at the top.
Yeah.
What does it cause?
So after you're on these different things and taking in maybe synthetic supplements, then we go into, the process of anxiety, being out of shape, brain fog, exhaustion, headaches and pains, and, all of it.
Yeah, and so now we're starting that cycle again. Instead of having the focus, intense thought needing to do with the marketing, you're having these actual effects. But then from there, it leads over to their cycle of the over-the-counter prescriptions, right? Antacids, Tylenol, ibuprofen.
Yeah, I jumped a little too far ahead.
No, that's perfect. So you basically know something's wrong. We call it dis-ease. Dis-ease is when you haven't been diagnosed with the disease yet, but you know something's wrong, right? All those things that Hilary mentioned. And so you go and do the heavy duty over-the-counter prescriptions, and then those don't work.
Right. So you've done the prescriptions. Now we're dealing with obesity, heart disease,
autoimmune
diseases.
Right.
Yep. And then sometimes it's so bad it leads to surgery.
So you keep that cycle. Over-the-counter prescriptions, other prescriptions leads to disease, surgery. And from surgery, some people wake up, but they're thrown back into the marketing side. and they go through that same cycle that got them there because they didn't realize it was the poor nutrition and lack of exercise.
So it's just this vicious cycle of back and forth between being marketed to and then big pharma and what it's constantly creating, this never-ending wheel going back and forth.
Yep, this never-ending disease cycle. And that's what, when we talk about the ugly of the American health system, that's the ugly. Is it's not just that, you know, we spend a lot of money on healthcare and our life expectancy. It's what's causing that, and it's a business machine, which, you know, causes a problem. And so the bottom line with modern American medicine is that the healthcare system will never be fixed until we fix our food. Now, we need to worry more about, you know, health than the disease care. In other words, the answer to reaching optimal health is the purity of our macronutrients and our micronutrients we're putting in our bodies. And we teach our doctors to worry about, that's what they need to be concerned about when prescribing to their patients, about the nutrition, the exercise, the supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way to break that cycle. And, you know, we have an uphill battle.
Yeah, for sure. Considering social media is now, you know, where most people are getting their information from. So you have all these social media influencers that market for drugs or big pharma in their own ways, and it works.
Oh yeah, it's smart for them to do, and we'll put up on the screen they actually got found out that the pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, big food industry, processed food companies are paying influencers.
Well, and why wouldn't they? Because it's a perfect plan. They've watched how influencers have influenced, you know, communities and their social community into buying shoes and clothing and jewelry, and you know, it's really how all of us, you are, we're influenced to purchase.
Right.
So why wouldn't you go that route if you were big pharma?
Well, especially since they have no ethics, because when it's talking about health, these are things that are based on research. It's one thing to buy a pair of shoes or something because someone liked, oh, I like them. They like shoes, you know, so I'm going to buy these shoes. It's different when an influencer is paid to teach you something that's supposedly good for your health when it is not. That's where the ethics side of it comes in. That's why they're trying to find a way to do something about it. But I think the key with this is that why in the world are we listening to social media influencers when it comes to health? There's one thing about clothing and all that. Well, it's because for a long time, we believed in the Center for Disease Control, the World Health Organization. We believe we should listen to certain doctors and things like that. Some of my favorite people over history are the Surgeon Generals in America, C. Everett Koop back in the 80s and the 90s and that. Well, now they all are bought out. Like I say all because I haven't found one yet that hasn't been, where they're promoting anything the pharmaceutical companies want. And most of America is wised up to that, right? To where even when it comes to these doctors and that promote certain diets, you know, the carnivore diet doctor, oh, now he's not because it's not that good for you. You know, intermittent fasting, new study came out the other day. So all these medical doctors are saying it's good for you, when in reality, it's only good for you as if it lowers your caloric intake where it should be. And all of these things. So people are saying, okay, well, can't trust these organizations now, obviously, especially through COVID, and these medical doctors and that are bought out and they're not taught nutrition much anyways. So now who do we believe? And there for a while, I think social media was great because the influencers, some people were truly researching.
It can be great. It still can be great depending on the influencer and what they are, you know, educated about and what they're trying to educate others on.
It's just, yeah, it is. It can be great. It's just tough to know if they were bought out or not. And that's what that study was trying to prove.
Right.
And, you know, just one last thing on the drug thing. It's amazing. There's like, 350 million people in America. But just a few years ago, the amount of drugs that were prescribed.
1 billion.
1 billion. So 1 billion prescriptions and only 350 million people.
That's so crazy.
That's crazy amount.
That's so crazy.
It's working.
I'd like to know, you know, how many, like one in how many people are on a prescription drug. I know we've talked about it before, but I can't remember.
Yeah, so 1 in 3 are, but the problem is the average American is on 4 to 7. So then it makes up for everybody. Right.
Oh.
And so it's crazy amount. And
so 1 in 3 people is on a prescription drug, right? And that one person out of those three
On
is
average.
on average, is on not just one prescription, but 4 to 7 prescriptions. And listen, I know that this is true because when my father was alive, I saw his medicine bag and it was loaded with
Yeah, it's
10
crazy.
different prescriptions, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because this prescription causes this reaction, which means you need to have this prescription to help with this reaction.
That's the problem. That's a huge problem. And
Oh,
you
man.
know, but we know many people in the old age that haven't had any, right? So
Yeah, I
like,
mean, your parents, so
had
your
0,
parents
90s.
lived into, your dad lived into his 90s, your mom into her late 80s, and they had how many prescription drugs?
0.
Zero.
0.
Zero. Shocking.
So,
Not that every once in a while they didn't go see their doctor and get prescribed something, but they had no ongoing
right.
prescription drugs
That's
in
a
their life.
good
They
point.
weren't on blood pressure medication. They weren't on antidepressants. Nothing.
Nothing. And so I think that it's important to understand that, you know, a lot of people think once you get older, that's just the way it is. No, it's your choice. And one last comment for those of you that are maybe new to the FitFam podcast. When we talked about supplements, majority of supplement companies are owned by pharmaceutical companies. They've been bought out. We know that all too well. We get requested to get bought out all the time. And there's very few of us family-owned whole food companies left. But there are studies, and we'll put one in the comments here and put on the screen, also showing that there's many studies showing that if you take a synthetic vitamin, one made from chemicals, that actually causes harm. This study, the Lynxian study, show that actually caused the risk of cancer to go up. But if you used whole food vitamins, it actually causes it to go down. So just know there is a difference. And, you know, go back to one of our previous podcasts to see all of the research on that subject. And so, you know, we didn't want to make this the American, you know, medical system or healthcare system, the good, the bad, and ugly, and leave it as bad and ugly. There is an answer. There is an answer. And it's the acronym that you talked about, but applied correctly.
Right. So focused intense thought, which in this case is getting your mind right, but also knowing where you're getting your research from. So doing your own research, right? So your own focused intense thought on what's best for your body.
And aligning yourself with those that you trust if you don't want to do it yourself. We don't have to always do our own research, but you have to be aligned with those. So whatever we're not the best at, we make sure that the best that's on our team, that we sort of say that we trust this person and we will listen to them. So if you're not going to do it on yourself, make sure that you align with someone you do trust.
Yeah, so focused intense thought, and then we go into nutrition. So we talk about whole foods constantly here. The least processed foods that you can eat are the best. So whole foods, don't skip your meals. You know, we believe in a meal every, you know, 2 to 4 hours, consuming another meal, and then drink clean water. Obviously. So those are the basics in nutrition. So when we're talking about water, we're basically saying drink your water and try to stay away from sugary drinks or sodas. You know, it's speaking one thing is helping you to know what you also need to eliminate. So when we're saying whole foods, consume more whole foods, consume less processed foods, right?
Exactly.
So then exercise, of course, we believe in 1 hour a day.
The research points it out strongly that 60 minutes a day will increase your lifespan and improve your health and your immunity. So that's why we say an hour. That's what the research bears.
And most people that will dedicate 1 hour a day to intense exercise will find that they feel better to accomplish other goals throughout their day. So,
right. So just start.
Yep. So strength, both strength training and cardio.
And cardio.
So both are vital. We talked the other day on our podcast about the importance of muscle. So cardio and
check that one out.
Strength training.
Yeah, great.
And then,
a lot of kinds.
Of course, your specific supplementation. And we believe in whole food vitamins, nothing synthetic, chelated minerals, plant enzymes, patented probiotics, and plant-based fatty acids.
Absolutely. And all those are important. Whole food vitamins versus synthetic, the chelated minerals like they come from the ground, organic. The plant enzymes, your body doesn't, if you do animal enzymes, your body would quit creating its own, but plant enzymes just add to the body's ability to digest the food. And when we say patented probiotics, we mean ones that have proven to get into the gut, that they don't get destroyed on the way. So it's the form of each of those things, the form of the vitamin, the mineral, the probiotic that's critical.
Yeah, and I would also add to our fitness acronym, so focus, intense thought, nutrition, exercise, specific supplementation. I would also add it is imperative to know how much of one thing your body might need, depending on how you've lived your life in the past. So, and when you're trying to create new healthy habits, we have the healthy habit tracker, which is perfect. It goes into fasting, creating habits, macro counting. So all of the things that are really imperative for your health. But on top of that, getting your blood work done and knowing what exactly you need for you.
Yeah, and so to keep it real simple, you like, what do I do from all that information, right? I got it, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we should do. Do what Hillary just said. Go to your app store on your phone, download the Healthy Habits Tracker. It's a green app. It'll guide you through it. You can, hopefully you're with a health professional and they use it. They'll give you their code to put in there. If not, just follow the instructions and you'll get a code to be able to start it. We'll put one in the notes here if you don't have one from a health professional, and pick one of the things that is on there. We like starting with fasting, but the Healthy Habit Tracker helps you to create the habits within the fitness acronym that we went over today. Just do it 21 days, check each box. Your habits will become subconscious. It's a life-changing. And then count your macros. Learn what's in your foods. And I love the concept of doing that. And like you said, at some time, get your blood work done. Design your nutrition program, your supplement program, and, what you're focusing on the most based on your risk of disease. That'll help you decide really where to put your focus. Everyone should do that once every 6 months just to know where you're at.
Bingo.
So follow those simple things to do. We work hard to try to make it to where you can simply jump in and do these things, whether you use our Healthy Habits Tracker, it's free, or some other framework. Find a framework that'll help you stay consistent on your road to optimal health.
I love it.
As always, Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Doug, the Formulator.
Take care. Keep chewing.